What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering, and it would appear, finally, months and months later, Joe Rogan has admitted that Spotify did censor him and has removed several episodes and will likely continue to censor him. Now, to be fair, I don't think anybody watching this video has $100 million in the bank. So I get that making some concessions would be likely. You know, I didn't think that, I never thought that Joe Rogan's show would be able to continue in its current form, even though he said it would. He said that he would remain he would have, full creative control, that Spotify wasn't pulling the strings. Now, all of this hullabaloo started back in September, where multiple mini controversies kept popping up. Back in September, Spotify employees want editorial control over Joe Rogan podcasts. These are probably some of the most entitled employees on the planet. This isn't to say everybody that works at Spotify is like this. I guarantee that couldn't possibly be the truth. But you can see multiple Spotify meetings over Joe Rogan's unfiltered style have reportedly taken place, leading to Spotify's CEO defending the right to speak freely, except they aren't defending that right to speak freely, and we'll get into that in a second. This, back in September, leaked inside information indicates that Spotify employees may be asking for greater editorial control over Joe Rogan's GRE podcasts. While this seems like an unlikely move and one that wouldn't be popular with viewers, it might also be possible under Spotify's content rules. Spotify's deal with Joe Rogan Experience was announced earlier this year, moving the wildly popular podcast from its original home on YouTube to the new video podcast section on Spotify. Now, that's the video version of the podcast, obviously. His podcast in and of itself is still hosted on many audio platforms. To me, without the video, the podcast would be uninteresting, but that's just me. Rogan told listeners that the entire Joe Rogan library would be available on Spotify starting in September, although that wasn't totally true. Spotify found some episodes that violated its rules and did not add them to the library. Joe Rogan is a spicy figure and a common tactic among most popular talk show hosts. A common tactic among the most popular video talk show hosts. What is that? That sense doesn't make sense. Rogan's unfiltered comments often cause an uproar among various groups, which play right into the show's approach. Rogan claims that simply is speaking his mind and even makes a rare apology if proven wrong about a topic. According to Digital Music News, employees are now seeking greater editorial control following Spotify employees having complained about recent episodes and requesting action to be taken. According to Vice, a town hall meeting was held to discuss the issue. Apparently, Spotify CEO Daniel Ek defended Rogan's right to speak freely while gingerly acknowledging Spotify's own responsibilities to moderate its content. Ek was said to mention 10 other meetings about Joe Rogan recently, so this could be an ongoing issue. So 10 meetings back in September. Then in December, when everything went exclusive on Spotify, things started kind of going downhill as expected. This is from the middle of February. Joe Rogan's fans plead for videos to go back on YouTube after Spotify issues. Viewers of the JRE podcast continue to plead for the full episodes to return for YouTube instead of exclusively being available on Spotify after users report issues with video playback on the music streaming platform. Look, I have no interest whatsoever in giving Spotify money. They are one of the most active in terms of corporate virtue signaling. They are pro-censorship, clearly, and they're not going to get any of my money. Joe Rogan is one of the internet's most popular podcasters, and the JRE has been hosted on YouTube since 2009. By the way, he won't be one of the internet's most popular podcasters for long. I do think that the accessibility of YouTube and the clips that people could find were a massive leading force for the Joe Rogan Experience to get popular on YouTube. Now, the JRE has been hosting on YouTube since 2009, has racked over 10 million subscribers on the site, but December 2020, they made a controversial move to Spotify exclusively. It's not Spotify for Joe Rogan, who will never, ever have to work again. While interesting clips from the show uploaded to Powerful JRE YouTube channel, the podcast episodes can't be watched in their entirety unless you watch them on Spotify. Spotify originally wanted to do audio-only recordings of the show, but Rogan and his management managed to convince the streaming service to facilitate the upload of video recordings after explaining that some of the show's most viral moments wouldn't have happened without video. You can see, I'm really pleased that Spotify plays ads on Joe Rogan podcast, even though I pay for premium. Go back to YouTube, Spotify's terrible listening experience. Has anyone figured out how to watch JRE on Apple TV? I basically haven't watched since the move to Spotify and wanted to see the Elon Musk episode. You can only watch on desktop or on your phone. Spotify hasn't made video available on TV apps or console on any media player. It's incredible how incompetent of a move it is. Hey, Joe Rogan and Spotify, it's awesome that you have video now, but I hope you would work on getting video on my TV app where I would most enjoy using it. Since I enjoy the show on its previous home, I can't enjoy it in its previous home anymore. I'm not going to sit at my desk and stare at my phone for 3 hours. And I mean, if you look at Joe Rogan's, overall channel here, if we look at Powerful JRE, it still has obviously 10 million subscribers, but views are not great. 200,000, 275,000. These are all the clips. Now, the clips' popularity will, vary in terms of who's obviously on the show. And when you look at the various topics, the various topics, people still, the top comment, Joe Rogan needs to leave Spotify and come back to YouTube. Yeah, I guess. But that's, of course, what people on YouTube are saying. Now we get Joe Rogan says Spotify isn't censoring him, but did remove some episodes. What would you call that, Joe Rogan? Your digital music news. Joe Rogan confirms that Spotify censored his earlier shows. There were a few episodes they didn't want on their platform. The answer came to the riddle from Joe Rogan himself, who has now confirmed that Spotify simply refused to transfer a number of its earlier shows as a condition of the $100 million exclusive partnership, and Joe Rogan happily agreed to it. During the transition of Rogan's podcast episodes to the Spotify platform in 2020, fans quickly noticed that multiple past episodes were glaringly omitted. Those included were interviews with controversial figures like Milo Yiannopoulos, Gavin McInnes, and Alex Jones, who has been separately banned from Spotify. Additionally, Rogan issued a rare apology and correction over the claim that left-wing morons had done bad things. He was wrong about that from what I remember. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but in a recent discussion with comedian Fahim Anwar, Joe Rogan stated that Spotify is now completely hands-off when it comes to his podcast, though that wasn't the case in the early days of the deal. But despite his frequent declarations regarding free speech, Rogan seemed more than happy to delete his earlier shows to seal the deal. Ironically, the topic of Spotify came up in the context of corporate sponsorship, specifically Netflix's censorship of Hassan Minaj's Patriot Act following pressure from the Saudi Arabian government. When I saw Hassan's show was pulled because of criticism of Saudi Arabia, I was like, what? Netflix? It made me feel like, man, I don't know if they're the place. I don't know if that's the place anymore because I feel like there's too much corporate involvement. There's too much influence on content. Anytime anything gets big enough, you're going to get stuff like that, Anwar responded. There's going to be strings attached. The criticism of me being on Spotify, Rogan quipped while letting out a laugh. They don't give an F, man. They haven't given me a hard time at all, Rogan said, before spilling the beans on the censorship bit. There were a few episodes that they didn't want on their platform, and I was like, okay, I don't care. But other than that, it's in terms of what I do in the future, the big test was having Alex on. So that answers that question. Though Rogan insisted there won't be further corporate oversight moving forward, a lot of people are like, they're telling Joe what he can and can't do. They're not. That's one thing that happened with Spotify. Some of their staff, where they thought I was phobic or thought I was a bad person. I saw one of their staff say that I was a shock jock, Rogan relayed. I'm not even remotely that. Earlier, Rogan addressed a wave of protests against him by activist Spotify employees, particularly over an episode questioning whether or not preteens should be getting surgeries to change their genders. The episode with Abigail Schreier was never removed, though Spotify employees reportedly threatened to walk out while demanding further show removals and direct editorial oversight over Rogan's future episodes. Ironically, for the Spotify protesters, it looks like the standoff prompted Rogan to organize an interview with Alex Jones, despite the platform-wide ban on the commentator. That show remains live on Spotify's platform, while the earlier interview remains banned, which suggests that Spotify shifted to hands-off approach. So, was this a win? Yeah, I mean, ultimately, look, the free speech absolutist in me is like, man, he shouldn't have bent the knee. He's the one that they wanted. They paid him $100 million for the show. Yes. But could any of us, if we had 2,000 episodes and they were like, hey, there's these 7 that are sticking points for us. We promise we won't mess with anything going forward, but they literally can't come here. I don't know if I would have the stones to walk away. I don't know if some new platform came around and offered me, I don't know, $10 million to move my platform, my 4,000 videos over, but they were like, these 7 can't. I don't know. How strong are my convictions? You know, how strong? $10 million bucks? Could you say no to that? You know, and trade a few episodes? I mean, as long as I had full editorial control going forward, I don't know. But it turns out it took 6 months before Joe Rogan finally admitted that, yes, Spotify did, in fact, censor those episodes. I don't know why he waited so long, but it's good to know that at least going forward, the show will remain unedited. For me, I won't be watching because I'm not paying Spotify for a thing, but I wish him the best. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.